Dr. Nasir welcomes you here in this lecture series on the history of Pakistan and India since 1857 to 1947. Today we will have a brief review on different historical events. Jinnah Gandhi Talks 1944, Lord Wavell Plan and Simla Conference 1945, General Elections 1945 and 46 and its outcomes, Cabinet Mission Plan 1946. This period from 1944 to 1946 is very important in the history of India and Pakistan. These four events actually made it vivid to the British government, All India Muslim League and Congress that two major political parties of India, All Indian National Congress and All India Muslim League, had developed the differences and that could not be bridged without partition of India. Let's start from the first topic, Gandhi Jinnah Talks and what were its impacts on the Hindu and Muslim community. This is the main question that we are trying to find out the answer. Jinnah then resided in Bombay. Gandhi was released from prison after the failure of Quit India movement. Ishtiaq Hussain Qureshi in his book, The Struggle for Pakistan, writes that Gandhi approached Jinnah for having mutual discussion. He came to the house of Mr. Jinnah in Bombay, now we call it Mumbai, and expressed his desire to have a negotiations with Mr. Jinnah. The most important and interesting fact of history is Mr. Jinnah had the experiences of Mr. Gandhi and negotiations with him. Mr. Gandhi was considered an expert of twisting the words, twisting his statements, and he could explain his political statements according to his own requirements. So when he reached at the house of Jinnah and requested him for the talks, Mr. Jinnah agreed. However, Jinnah set the condition that both of us would keep the record of our discussions in black and white. So Mr. Jinnah wrote a letter to Gandhi and requested him to explain the purpose of having these talks. To the reply of Mr. Jinnah's letter, Gandhi explained that he had come to seek the cooperation of All India Muslim League for freedom of India and unity of Hindu Muslims. Then Gandhi wanted that Congress needed the support of All India Muslim League in the cause of the freedom of India, because he expected that British would quit India soon, and then he demanded Muslim League to support without division of India, and later this matter could be discussed. So when he wrote letter to Mr. Jinnah in September, this Jinnah Gandhi talk started, and he replied to Mr. Jinnah. Gandhi explained in his reply he had come to hold negotiations to bridge the gap between the Muslims and the Hindus, and he also explained that he had come in his personal capacity. If the situation becomes, conducive and negotiations reach to on an agreement between Jinnah and Gandhi, then he would put it to the Executive Council of All Indian National Congress and they would approve it off. So then Mr. Gandhi received another piece of writing from Jinnah. Let's start the discussions and what is the main topic of our agenda of these Jinnah Gandhi talks. So in the next reply, Mr. Mohan Chand Karamdas Gandhi, Mahatma Ji, Bapu Ji wrote to Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah that your plan of partition and demand in the Pakistan resolution is the replica of Acharya formula, and it could not be implemented due to its ambiguity. He raised the question, who would demarcate the boundaries and how could it possible? Then Mr. Jinnah replied that Pakistan resolution passed in 1940 was not a replica of Acharya formula. In Acharya formula, and Mr. Acharya suggested that India could be divided into administrative units and they would be part of the Indian Federation. So Jinnah made it clear that we were not demanding any administrative setup. We wanted separation of India. And he also replied Gandhi that the mechanism of the division already had been suggested in Acharya formula, that a commission would be set up that would demarcate the boundaries on administrative basis amongst the administrative units. So he said it could be further expanded to the division of Pakistan. Mr. Jinnah received another letter, and in this letter, Gandhi now opened another topic. He closed it and started a new topic, and he inquired Mr. Jinnah that partition could not be accepted on the basis of this two-nation theory. He tried to convince Jinnah that 400 or 600 years ago, the Muslims were originally Hindus and they were converters. How converters could become a separate nation and they could demand a separate homeland. So then Jinnah replied him and explained the two-nation theory, that though Muslims started to embrace Islam, when they entered into the fold of Islam and became the Muslims, according to Ishtiaq San Qureshi, and that when Jinnah said that when Muslims entered into the fold of Islam, definitely they changed the religion. Since they changed the religion, they maintained their own cultural identity, and still they had, Mr. Jinnah also explained that Muslims in India had emerged as the second largest Muslim majority or second largest population in India, and this population fulfilled all the conditions of the definition of a nation. Mr. Jinnah explained that a nation needed geographical area, so he pointed out that northwestern 4 provinces of India and eastern provinces, Bengal and Assam, Muslims were in majority, so they could be given the a separation or separate homeland on the basis of this area. He said the second important component of a nation is population. So he pointed out that in this region and within the Hindu majority provinces, Muslims lived and they had more than 33% of the total population of India. And then he pointed out that the history is the third component. So he reminded Mr. Gandhi that the history of the Muslims not started from India only. It had 14 years old history, and Muslims felt comfortable to affiliate them with the Western Asia and Arabs as a part of the Muslim Ummah. So Jinnah also explained to nation theory, um, explicitly to Mr. Gandhi. After receiving this letter, uh, Gandhi reached on the conclusion that Jinnah was adamant for the partition of India, and he could not be convinced by his arguments of united India. So suddenly he called off the meetings and he called a press conference. In this press conference, Mr. Gandhi said that Mr. Jinnah had adopted an adamant attitude and these talks had failed and it could not be, both couldn't reach on any agreement. In the result, these Jinnah-Gandhi talks actually failed. However, the failure of the Jinnah-Gandhi talks is just one episode of the story. The second episode of this Jinnah-Gandhi talks is that they were very significant for the population of Indians. Muslims and Hindus both were looking towards their leaders. So Jinnah gave very strong message to the Hindu community and the Muslim community that Muslims were now ready for the division of India. And he also gave this message to the Hindu community that Muslim League had emerged as one of the leading political party. So they could not be, undermined. So the importance of the Jinnah-Gandhi talks is that it actually made it clear what Congress wanted and what were the demands of the Muslim League. The analysis of Jinnah-Gandhi talks reveals that Gandhi wanted united India and Muslim League wanted division of India. So these talks failed. Then the Second World War had already ended in 1939. We had already discussed about Cripps mission and all that. Now Lord Wavell actually decided on the advice, the piece of advice of the British Parliament, that he must establish a Viceroy Executive Council with the equal representation of Muslims, Hindus, representatives. And in this Viceroy Executive Council would serve as an interim government until the period the British left India. So then Lord Wavell called a conference in Simla where Liaquat Ali Khan, and Nawabzada Liaquat Ali Khan, Quaid-e-Azam and Nazmuddin, they attended the meeting on behalf of the Muslim League, and Gandhi came there along with Abul Kalam Azad, the member of the Congress, to give the impression that only Muslim League was not the representative. Congress also had the representation of the Muslims within its ranks. The conference started in the beginning, the Simla conference 1945 that started in June. It made some ground and both political parties reached on this conclusion that there must be established an interim government. However, the differences occurred when Lord Wavell demanded the nominations of the Muslim representatives and the Hindu representatives from Congress and Muslim League. Then Mr. Gandhi pointed out to Abul Kalam Azad and explained that Congress had the right to represent all the Muslim leaders of the Executive Council and its members. This was very seriously taken by Mr. Jinnah, and he objected that Muslim League was the sole representative of the Muslims. He argued that the history of the by-election since 1937 is evident that Muslims had won on all the Muslim seats. So Jinnah refused to accept the nomination of the Congress for the Muslim members. If Congress got the opportunity to nominate the Muslim members, then Congress got the majority in the Viceroy Executive Council because the Congress had already planned to nominate Abul Kalam Azad and some members from Unionist Party of Punjab, and Bacha Khan was on board and he could nominate some Muslim members from KPK. So by this way, the Muslim League was out of the rung and League could not play any role within the Viceroy Executive Council. Thus, Jinnah did not accept and he flatly refused to accept this. He said only Muslims could nominate, Muslim League could nominate the Muslim members. So why do we say that Jinnah played a master stroke of his life and he made the Simla conference failure? After the failure of Simla conference, another attempt of the British government had failed to bring any reconciliation between Congress and the Muslim League. However, the failure of the Simla conference once again sent the same message to the British government, to the Viceroy, the Parliament, as well as Congress, that Muslim could not reach on any agreement except the partition. After the failure of this Simla conference, the election held in England, and Conservative Party under the leadership of Winston Churchill, who had won the World War II, was defeated by Labour Party. The British voters refused to give more time to Sir Winston Churchill, and they brought Lord Attlee and Labour into powers. Now, Conservative parties actually wanted to prolong the rule in India, and Labour Party was the supporter of giving freedom to India as early as possible. The most interesting point for the students of history is that masses are the real judge of the performance, and they decide the fate and destiny of the nations. So if we study about the defeat of Winston Churchill and the victory of Labour in these elections, we could find an interesting answer. The people of Great Britain decided that the war times Prime Minister now had developed the mindset to take every decision on war footings because the peace had prevailed, so he was unfit for the job of the Prime Minister, and they brought a fresh and new Prime Minister and new party into power so that they could work for the development of the state. That is the beauty of the democracy, which I often refer to my students. So when Lord Attlee came into power, he sent instruction to Lord Wavell that now he must go for the general elections in India and give them the right of self-rule to establish their political rule at federal level and provincial level. So the electioneering process was launched in India in December 1945 to February 1946. So in 1946, the elections held for the Federal Assembly of India. In this election, the Muslim League had been organized by Jinnah with his sincere efforts. And in this election, Muslim League presented the manifesto that Muslims were a separate nation and they needed a separate homeland. The manifesto of Congress was United India and full freedom for India. So it was very clear and evident for the voters that both parties wanted United India. Congress wanted United India and Muslim League wanted division of India for the Muslim majority regions. So when results of the elections were announced, Muslim League had won 30 seats reserved for the Muslims in the Federal Assembly. And in the 11 provinces seats, Muslim League won 429 and in some books 445 seats from all the Muslim majority and Hindu minority provinces. However, the alarming situation came forth in KPK where Muslim League could secure only 17 seats for the provincial assemblies. Bacha Khan Khudai Khidmatgar won the seats and Congress won 19 seats. So they formed a coalition government in KPK, or Northwestern Frontier Province, then known as, this was old name. So they formed their government over there. After this election, now Jinnah called a Muslim League convention in 1946 April in Delhi. In this convention, the winner of the provincial assemblies, newly elected members of the provincial and federal assemblies, they pledged their trust into the personality of Mr. Jinnah and his leadership. Hussain Shahid Sohrawardy, who belonged to Bengal, he once again floated the Pakistan resolution and demanded that League wanted the partition of India and creation of Pakistan in the northwestern 4 provinces, Punjab, Sindh, Balochistan, KPK and Bengal, eastern part of India and Assam. So this April convention actually empowered Mr. Jinnah to make any deal or any decision on their behalf, and he was ensured that he would be fully, given support. The results of the general elections now were evident that League had performed well than 1937. Sometime in the GCE questions, Pakistan Studies paper 1 in Cambridge University sets the question that why did Muslim League could not perform well in 1937 than 1945 and 6. Answer is so simple. In 1937, Muslim League was undergoing the process of reorganization. Jinnah had left and came back in 1934 into the politics again. He was given the charge of the presidentship of the League. He was trying to reorganize it. He was busy in making it popular amongst the Muslim masses and traveling into the different parts of India. So until 1946, the process had completed and he had made League a very popular party on the basis of their manifesto, on the basis of their demands, and particularly the role of the Congress ministries proved an eye-opener for the Muslims of India, and they decided that Congress could not support them, Congress could not represent them Unfortunately, Congress that was established as an all Indian national representative was now working only for the Hindu community, and their emphasis had shifted towards the United India, and Gandhi had presented the idea of the United India, and he didn't believe in two-nation theory. He opposed it very seriously. While Jinnah had given up the Hindu-Muslim stance in 1940, and he was trying to convince the Muslims that despite my all efforts for the Hindu-Muslim unity, Congress could not accept it, and they rejected all my proposals. So now the leadership of Muslim League had been successfully convinced the Muslims that only solution of Indian is Pakistan. So therefore, the results of the 1945 and 46 federal and provincial assemblies actually proved a referendum in India, and both communities had cast vote to their representative party. Congress made landslide victory on all the Hindu seats, and Muslims made landslide victory on all the Muslim seats. Sikh won their seats. So it was evident that partition is imminent in the history of India. After the election, the Labour Party, Lord Attlee made a speech that India could be given freedom until 1948. And then he constituted a commission consisted of 3 ministers, which is known as a cabinet mission. So cabinet mission consisted on 3 ministers: Lord Pethick Lawrence, the head of the mission, cabinet mission, Sir Stafford Cripps, and A.V. Alexander. They came to India. Their main aim was to present the new constitution of India. So when they left England, A.V. Alexander made a statement that we could not allow to prevail minority on the majority. It was a message to Muslim League that Hindus are in majority, so the minorities should accept their status. To the reply of this statement of Mr. Lord Pethick Lawrence, Jinnah also made a statement that majority could not be allowed to prevail upon the rights of the minorities. So then the cabinet mission realized that situation is not easy for them and they must take them equally. Therefore, Lord Pethick Lawrence announced that we would take all the stakeholders equally on the board. So when he reached in when he reached in India, then Muslim League wanted partition. Congress wanted United India and self-rule. So in the beginning, Lord Pethick Lawrence presented an interim plan. Then an interim government must be set up, and this government would establish a boundary commission taking the members from the provincial assemblies, and they would decide how to work for the Indian government and their provinces, boundaries, etc. before the British left. But Muslim League rejected it. Congress also rejected it. And then another plan was announced by Lord Pethick Lawrence and his other 2 ministers, meeting with consulting with the leadership, Gandhi, Quaid-e-Azam, Governor General, and others. Now he presented another plan which is known in the history as the Cabinet Mission Plan. The Cabinet Mission Plan now actually presented its proposals or plan, and in this plan, the important point was the Pakistan scheme was rejected, and the important points they included in their plan are: number 1, dominion status to the Union of India. Union of India would have 3 groups of provinces. Number 1, Hindu majority provinces, Group A. Northwestern Muslim majority provinces, Group B. Northeastern 2 provinces, Bengal and Assam, Group C. Each group had its own provincial assembly with full provincial autonomy. The Federal Assembly would consist on the representatives of the provinces group and princely states. A commission of the, a boundary commission would be set up that would decide to demarcate the boundaries of these groups, and later for 10 years each group of the provinces would be part of the federation or this Union of India, and after 10 years any group or any province of some or one group or a whole group could opt out from the Union of India. So when this was, and then during this time, all the affairs, defense, foreign affairs, and others would remain in the hands of under the control of the British governors, and the rest of the powers could be given to the provincial assemblies. And this time, the same condition was implemented again: accept the proposal in totality or reject the proposal in totality. That means they were not given any chance to amend or modify it. So when this plan came forth and published and presented to the Indian political parties, Gandhi reacted and made a very interesting statement of 2 words. He said, Cabinet Mission Plan, quote, an appeal and advice, unquote. An appeal and advice means when you make the appeal to someone for accepting your request and to give them the response is on the basis of the facts and evidences. And advice means when you make piece of advice to someone else, it is discretion whether he or she or that community accepts or rejects it. So Gandhi said, it's an appeal, it's an advice to Indians. Now it's upon us whether we accept or reject it. In the beginning, Muslim League decided to accept the plan because Muslim League saw a silver line in the plan that after some years they could opt out and Pakistan's scheme was practicable, so they decided to accept it. But when Nehru made the speech that Congress had no liability to accept the plan in its totality and it could be modified after sitting into the session of the Federal Assembly, then League rejected it, and Muslim League announced that they could not accept Cabinet Mission Plan because this plan, if had to be modified and amended by the Congress, then we could not accept it because the role of the Congress was entirely detrimental to the rights of the Muslims. So after the rejection of the Muslim League, Cabinet Mission Plan failed, and another attempt of the British government could not become a success and fulfill their purpose to prolong the colonial rule in India for a longer time. Quaid-e-Azam announced that Gandhi had been involved in launching several non-cooperation movements. This time Muslim League would start the civil disobedience for achieving their separate homeland. So the Muslim League asked the Muslims to observe the Direct Action Day on 16th August 1946. So on the 16th August 1946, the Muslim League and the Muslims, they observed Direct Action Day. In Urdu we call it Yom-e-Rast Iqdam, means the League now had launched its civil disobedience. And this civil obedience actually was started with the fervor, with the objective, and the Muslims came out on the roads with zeal and zest to win the country. On the other hand, Congress was making efforts to keep the India united. So if we have a look on the all these events and their outcomes, the analysis is: number one, British made attempts to keep India united and to prolong their rule for some time. And they wanted to gain time to quit India and wanted to make some arrangements. Labour Party was willing to grant this freedom till July 1948, but after the failure of all these Gandhi Jinnah talks, Simla conference, and then the result of elections, Wavell effort failed, and cabinet mission plan could not achieve the objectives. So then the British government accelerated the process of quitting India and granting the freedom to the Indians, and they reached on the conclusion of division of India. The results of these events and results and outcomes of the elections also made evident that now partition was the only solution. So therefore, after the failure of the cabinet mission plan, the British government made half-hearted attempt when Viceroy Wavell invited Congress to form the government. When they refused it, the interim government could not be formed, and the government of India couldn't be formed because Congress refused to form. Now it was the duty of Lord Wavell, and morally and ethically was bound to invite the second largest party, Muslim League, to form the government, whether they formed or couldn't. But he did not do so. He decided to go for an interim government. He took members from 5 from Congress, 5 from Hindus. So Quaid-e-Azam appointed Liaquat Ali Khan and 4 other members, including Jungidar Nath Mandal, a Hindu, and he sent the message to the minorities in India that you're equally protected under the flag of Muslim League. This government worked for a very short span of time. When budget passed, Congress objected it because Liaquat Ali Khan imposed very heavy taxes upon the industrialists and landlords. So then there started the differences started to occur, and ultimately the Muslim League resigned from the cabinet, and this interim government came to an end. In the meanwhile, Lord Wavell was replaced by the last Viceroy of India, Lord Mountbatten. He came into India in April 1947, and after reaching here, he reached on the conclusion that India could be divided. So this part of the plan of partition of India, the India Act and Radcliffe Award is our next topic in the next lecture. Keep on watching Dr. Nasir Hussain on the YouTube. Subscribe it for getting more videos on history of Pakistan and benefit from this. Thank you very much.